Hey guys, welcome back. This is I'm like not good at this. I like want to write it down because I want to have like kind of like a concrete structure of the video. I can't even talk. I want to be able to like thoroughly explain myself, but I also don't want to spend the time. So it's just like the laziness, but like the desire to have a quality video. So we're gonna have somewhere in the middle. But thank you for watching the intro video. I have my first book review. I just thought I would dive right in because the longer I ramble, the worse it's going to get for everybody. So the first book I have is To Paradise. This is by Hanya Yanagihara. She's the author of People in the Trees, as from the back, as well as A Little Life. Now this is the one I was most excited about because I read A Little Life, and it's a hot take, but I really enjoyed it. I got a lot from that book. It was a really interesting and thought-provoking book, to say the least. So when this idea of the book came out a year ago, I was really excited for when it finally came out in like mid-January. So yeah, it's a 700-page book that is definitely, that's a lot, and I definitely felt it at times, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's a super interesting idea because, she even defines the U.S., so she redefines the U.S. in a different way. So ever since the Civil War, you have the colonies, or like down in the South, you have the free states, which are very liberal-minded and open-minded in terms of, like, in particular, love. Gay marriage and gay arranged marriage is really encouraged, and it's very common in the free states, even in the 1800s, which is not something we would talk about in our history. And then you also have the West, and then you have, the Kingdom of Hawaii. I forgot the name of it, so I had to cheat right there. So it's a really interesting concept. I'm like, oh, cool, like redefining like the history, seeing like a different world. And then it also follows it within, 3 different sections of the book, book 1, 2, and 3, 1883, 1983, and 2083. That is the first take that I've actually said those 3 dates, and it actually makes sense. It's 100 years apart. So I'm proud of myself for that one, even though nobody cares. But so I think it's cool, like a new history, 3 different generations, multiple characters, talking about love, race, every hot topic issue. But I thought it was really interesting because it's a very ambitious book, and there's a lot I really did like. In particular, the first part of the book, which is the 1883. I'm going to get confused, so I wrote some notes down. I know it's cheating, but, this is for me, so... But David is, he was the son. He's born into wealth. He's supposed to be in an arranged marriage. And the grandfather, who is the kind of the creator of the wealth, wants him to pursue Edward. He's a great guy, really checks all the boxes, also rich, blah, blah, blah. But just like any other classic rom-com, the perfect guy's right there. But then you have the other one who he's going to end up with. I'm not spoiling anything just because it's pretty obvious. You can tell from the beginning. At least he's intrigued. What he ends up doing, you'll have to read it. But you have Edward, who he loves, but Charles, who he desires. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. And I thought that was really interesting because it talks about just like the dynamics of like what defines a relationship. What do you think you need out of a relationship in terms of stability, like character traits and whatnot. So that was really interesting. And then it jumps forward 100 years into the descendants of David's family. And he, talks further about love. And this is the part of the book where it definitely dragged the most, I felt. It did talk more about, death and the AIDS epidemic. And I thought that was kind of, it was still something that was similar to what happened into the 80s of our, America, I should say. But even in this America, it was still an issue. So to kind of highlight some of the issues of like love and death and disease. And she kind of continues those themes in 2083, where she decided to create a pandemic, which I thought was really amusing because, I don't know the timeline of when she started writing it before COVID, during it, and after COVID, but it was a lot of similarities, and I definitely felt some feelings where it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly how a lot of us feel living through an actual pandemic, but it's not the same disease, but it's similar traits. So I thought it was kind of cool to like read a fiction book that had those overlaps. But I thought that was a very ambitious idea, and I think it was executed well in some areas. I think the other things that I really like, and I think it's more just like her as a writer, she's very introspective towards her characters, and I feel like what am I trying to say? You know, like when a character's in a dilemma, rather than you knowing it's in a dilemma, she'll write out like the thought process, like the thought bubble, which I really enjoy because it just further gets into the character's mind. And as somebody who overthinks just about every social interaction, I think like when I read a character's point of view who also does that, I find it relatable, and I think that was really effective. But I think that kind of ends in terms of the character relatability. So while I felt like I could get into their thought bubble, I didn't feel enough emotional connection. I felt that with the three different sections of the book and each 100-year difference, and it's supposed to be through the same lineage and the same family and like their partners and whatnot. I didn't feel like that connection from 1883 to 1983 was really that valuable. Like, yes, they're related, but I didn't feel any like, oh wow, that's so cool. Like, I wonder the character traits. It just felt like they just picked the same names and just translated them into like new people 100 years later. And so that was a little disappointing because I felt like there was probably ways they could have interwoven the characters a little better. I also feel that it was long. You know, 700 pages is a long book, but I don't think a book has to feel long, but this definitely felt long at times. It was enough. It wasn't too long where I wanted to like stop it permanently, but it was definitely moments where I'm like, I just like want to kind of keep going. In particular, the second part, I'll just leave it at that because I want to keep this kind of spoiler free. But there's definitely moments in the book where I was just like, I just kind of want to skip past this. But I persevered. And then the second part of the book second part ended pretty well, and then the third part was a very interesting because it goes in like a more like diary letter format. Overall, I gave this book a 3 out of 5 because I think it's well written. I think she does good characters, and I'm definitely biased because I really like The Little Life. But it was good, not great. I think the writing does not compensate for the fact that I feel like I don't want to say lack of character development, but I think lack of like character connectedness just kind of fell flat for me. 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and yeah, we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. This is on the newer side of the book since it's only been out a month. Has anybody read it? I doubt it. I don't know like why people ask those questions because I only got 3 comments. But if you guys did read it, I would be curious. But if not, just say only positive things about this video because I know it went super well. In the meantime, I'm going to try and find ways to improve, and maybe if this book review went so badly, I may never do it ever again. In the meantime, thank you for liking and subscribing, and yeah, do whatever. I would just say, like, what's the harm in just hitting the like button? You know, you're not going to think about this video ever again, so please do so. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. A Little Life. It is not a little life. It is to paradise.